Okay, I'm going to be talking about Rogue One. It's on Netflix because there's no way I wanted to pay money to see the movie, and so but it's on Netflix. I was doing some range of motion exercises, trying to keep the joints flexible, and there it was. So I thought I'd watch a little bit of it and discuss what I saw about it because as I was watching it, I was just really baffled because overall I found it to be so poor that I was actually shocked, and I didn't expect much from it, at all. I wasn't expecting. I was just expecting an okay movie, but I was really surprised at how poor it was. Of course, there are certain things that are nice about it, like some of the cinematography is very nice, some of the shots, some of the costuming, some of the framing, those sorts of things. So I mean, I don't want us to make it seem like it's complete overall, but it's such a contrast where you have some parts, some specific elements that are so good, but then others are like beneath a B grade movie that you would see. So I thought I'd talk about it. And let's see, I just wrote down a list of different things that I saw. So of course you will have to have seen the movie. I'm not going to really recap or anything like that. Um, and I'll talk about also why I can't recap it for you here at the end. So the first thing I noticed is the opening shot. Why does it start with a loud noise on a picture of a planet with nothing going on? Like that really just struck me as rude. It's like a 5 or 6 year old, having acting out to get mommy's attention. Like why does it go make that weird noise? Like why? I mean, you're here. We're watching. We're already paying attention. There's nothing going on. Why? I am completely baffled. I would be thrilled if someone could explain to me why that is there. Is it so that everybody that's playing with their phone in a theater pays attention because there's a loud noise, so they look up at the screen? I mean, that's the only logical thing I can figure out, which I think is just a stupid reason to include that sound in the movie, if that is why it was included. But if anyone else has another reason, please let me know. Um, we also have vaguely ominous music with a beautiful beach background when the shuttle's landing. You see it flying in. Is it to try to make us uncomfortable or unsettled? And I noticed this as I went throughout that they contrasted some weird things like that. Beautiful background, ominous music with the shuttle landing, which is, at this point we have no context for the shuttle, could be good or bad. I mean, if you know Star Wars, you know it has a vaguely imperial design, but again, that doesn't mean anything really. So, is this movie trying to get an element of like something's being contaminated, despoiled, the beauty? And another element that I noticed as the shuttle was landing was we have this lush green land with this rich dark soil, which is a good thematic element if they use it. It's life. There's an abundance of life growing here. The potential also in the soil where there's nothing growing, but it looks like it's rich soil that it would grow. I don't know, like I said, if that will pay off later on. These are just things I wrote down and that struck me as either really good or really bad as we were going through it. We see a lone droid working, taking note of a shuttle. I'm not sure what that's really supposed to indicate. Maybe subterfuge of some sort, that there is under elements going on here, sneaky elements of some sort. Again, that was kind of confusing why the droid was there necessarily. I mean, I know it's because that we see that they're alerted later on, but they didn't even need the droid because the little girl comes in and tells them. So they could have just started it from there. It wouldn't have been any difference really. Although, I mean, it would make sense if they were planning for this that they would have contingencies such as the droids to let them know. But again, it's kind of confusing all the way around. Then they have some rushed music, the people being rushed, and then you have an odd lingering shot on blue milk. And this again just struck me as so odd because they're trying to convey a sense of hurriedness with everyone rushing and the music and everything, and then they just linger on this shot of blue milk. Like that stands out already. There's no need to just, kind of pause the screen there for a second or two on that. And it also interrupts the flow of what you're trying to create there. And in the shot thereafter, you see the blue milk, and it does appear natural in that shot because it's just off the frame as we're looking at, I believe it was Lyra, um, Jin's mother, in the shot. And again, was this like one of those reshoot things? Was this added in later? Did they think they needed to put that blue milk in there? Because I did notice a bit of pandering to older elements. But I mean, it just really struck me as just odd again, and just not not good quality that you would expect out of such a property. You know, it's like if you go buy a product from a mainstream company like a chair, you have certain expectations of just the price of a company that is well known that makes a product, like say a dryer and washer set. You buy GE, everybody knows GE. There's a certain level of competency that's expected with that level of the name. Not, Hachada brand. Okay, that one, you don't know what you're getting. And you know that. So you would expect with Disney, Rogue One, there's a certain level of competency that would be expected. Again, we see an element of the small bits of life in this sea of black, small slices of life of growth in the darkness. Now, this doesn't really work because they don't really indicate this to us, but a dark soil is a rich soil, so it should be fertile for growth. So there's the possibility of something growing. Perhaps that indicates the rebellion in a way. They're in this sea of black, which is the Empire, but there is potential for growth in that. The word Stardust for his daughter, for Jin, does seem a bit forced. Doesn't seem very natural. Again, we don't have any context, and I see this as a problem as we kept going through the movie. They just kept throwing us with these people and expecting us just to immediately glom on to them, instead of introducing us to them and we're getting to know them. So they expect this Stardust to be a cool emotional appeal to us, but we just met these people and it just sounds weird. Like, we don't know, why is she called Stardust? Maybe we find out later in the movie. I'll have more about that later on. But you just introduced this to us, and I don't know why he calls her this and whether it has any meaning or not. Another minor point, why did the Imperial shuttle land so far away? I mean, really? It would make the scene better if they landed closer and they were more rushed. Does the Imperial dude like long walks in the afternoon? I mean, because that was actually a pretty good ways away that they landed. Again, it doesn't make sense. They didn't provide any reasoning. I mean, they could have said something about the ground maybe around the house not being stable enough for a shuttle of that size. I mean, you could have come up with some sort of a reason, perhaps. But they don't. And it just seems weird. I guess they just like the shot of them being so far away is the only thing I guess I could imagine. But again, having something cool that also introduces an element that doesn't make sense is not helpful to a movie story. If you have something cool that doesn't detract from the story, at least that you can go with, well, at least it was something cool, but it doesn't take away. But in this case, it also introduced an element that just does not make sense. The mom's necklace that Jin's mom gave to her seems a little forced, again, because we don't know these people. Everything's being rushed. Why didn't she give it to her earlier? Why wasn't she already wearing it, It just doesn't seem very natural. Okay. So it appears that they had a plan for when the Imperials were going to come. Wife and daughter go to hide, and I guess they either hope that Dad gets taken, killed, or Krennic just leaves them alone because, whatever. So her running out is just dumb. And it's really dumb because we, again, do not know these people. It's just stupid. There's a contingent of stormtroopers there, or even better than stormtroopers, I guess, because they're in black. And, I mean, what was going to happen? You were going to come out with a gun and he was going to be like, okay, I give, and walk away. I mean, is she normally prone to bad decisions? Again, we don't know. And it just looks stupid. And I don't like that. Okay, if you have a stupid character, that's fine. If you've established that they make bad decisions and why. And a good example of that I'll give is the Jessica, the Netflix Marvel superhero shows. She makes bad decisions. But because we've gotten to know her bad decisions make sense from her point of view. And you can even see some of them coming because if you've watched the the entire series, you can see like what she's prior decisions she's made. It's like, yeah, she's probably going to make a bad decision here, and yeah, okay, you did, yeah, because I know you, Jessica, and that's what you would do. So again, doesn't make any sense. So she tells her daughter to trust the Force. Again, I understand them wanting to try to pull a Force in there in some way, because it's kind of like God, it's religion, it's myth. It's trying to pull in a greater element of meaning to life. That's what God, religion, and myth provide, is meaning. But did the Force instruct her to try and pull a blaster on the Imperials, and that would go well? How was that ever going to work out? What did you immediately abandon the plan, the one that you made, and to the Force? Again, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. All right. So no little kid would watch their parents gunned down and not yell out. If they want us to take it seriously, they need to introduce us to her, so we know why that Jinn is so different that she would not do that. Because otherwise it just feels at the whim of the author, which doesn't feel like you're watching real people in a real story. It feels like you're watching someone's, fevered fantasy, I suppose, that does not make any rational sense in some ways. It would make more sense if she tried to obey, but then other troopers came up behind. Like, she tried to go away, but then other troopers came up, so she had to hide. And of course, since she's already hiding, she's going to watch her parents. That would make sense. It would also make more sense because if she actually tried to listen to her parents and obey them, that she wouldn't yell out, because that shows extreme discipline for a child so young. Because as any parent knows, a child that looks around her age, 8, 10, whatever she was, it's really hard for them to follow even the simplest of instructions at certain times, and certainly under stress. I mean, kids just like stop under stress. When there's really something going on, they just don't function. They just stop. And so if they showed her actually attempting to follow her parents' instructions, and she wasn't able to because other troopers were surrounding the house and she had to hide and watch, that might make sense to where she had the self-discipline to not yell out when her parents were shot. But because she had no discipline and would not follow them, follow what she was instructed to do, it would make more sense that she would yell out, because she has that lack of discipline. So again, those don't work together. They don't make sense. All right, so let's see what else I've got written here. Chill it. I'm not even sure I can read what I've got there, so maybe we'll just come back to that one. So they found a doll when they were looking. So they have definitive evidence that a child is present at Galen's farm, as it were. Was the white stormtrooper supposed to be a joke? Was it supposed to be funny? Because I didn't find it funny, but they kind of played it like it was supposed to be funny. So is this a serious scene that we're taking seriously, that people could get hurt and killed, or is it a cartoon, or like just a 80s action comedy movie that you don't really take serious? It's just for laughs. I don't know. I actually do not honestly know, because they seem to really want us to take it serious. But then they keep interjecting stuff like that in there, which undercuts it. I don't know if it's serious. I mean, you can do a serious movie and have low-key, wry, dark humor in it, but it didn't come across that way to me at all. It came across as actually trying to, have a little joke. And you see that come up, in various different circumstances. But it just seemed really odd, that doll. Like, it wasn't needed, wasn't supposed to be there, because it actually undercuts the story, because if they found the doll and they know that there's a child present, why would the stormtroopers ever leave? Why wouldn't Krennic just leave a garrison? And they keep looking for her. Again, that makes no sense. They should have just not had the doll, and then maybe Krennic figures that the kid was somewhere else, or something. Or, Galen could tell him that, well, I sent her far, far away so that you could not, get your hands on her. Okay, fair enough. I don't see evidence of a child. We'll go. All right. Well, whatever. Again, that doesn't make any good. So let's see what else I've got here. Adult Jen. Okay, I've got a thing here. So we see her in the jail cell, and she's trying to look what? Badass. You know that she's a competent person. She really just looks kind of bitchy, and like she's been thrown in the drunk tank, and now she's pissed off because she woke up drunk in a jail cell. And again, there's no context. She could deserve to be in that cell. She could have gotten in a fight and beaten someone up, taken their money. We don't know anything about her. All we see is McBitchy Pants in a jail cell. And it's like, maybe you deserve to be in there. Again, no context. They just throw us in there, and they're giving us contradictory cues, I think, too. I mean, even if they gave us something sympathetic, I guess, to go with that we could. So, I mean, the Empire has to lock up drunks and thieves and regular people, people like that too, to have some semblance of order. So, I don't understand, again. I don't even understand why it starts with her in a jail cell, really, because at least in what I watched, and we'll get to that later, there doesn't seem to be any reason for it. They could have just walked up and found her in a bar and said, hey, come with us. Again, then we go to another shot of a trading post. I don't remember the name. It's kind of cool looking. It's like built on an asteroid or whatever. But why is there such dramatic music about a place that we don't even know? It's like someone's sitting there with a timer that says, oh, it's been X minutes since we've had a dramatic music thing. Now, do it now, or something. I don't understand why. There's nothing dramatic. Why didn't they just have low-key music? Because we're changing scenes. It's not even like we were, that much in the action or anything. Like the prior scene had ended. It concluded. Okay. In the next shot, they have some prominent orange robes, and then they have some yellow ones. Again, why? Why do they make a point of sticking these orange robes in a shot, and then these people with yellow robes in a shot? Why not just have different colored robes? Or, again, I don't see why. Are they just trying to have some color in the scene? Well, again, they could have just had one person, but it doesn't make sense to have multiples with those colors. It's just distracting. Like there's many things. There were many minor things in this movie that were just very distracting toward me. Very, very confused. So we have our dude Cassian Andor, I believe his name is, talking to a person in the alley. Why is the guy yelling at him? Like he's concerned, he's scared about getting caught, about leaving on time, and he's yelling this information to him when he's less than a foot away. It didn't make any sense to me, really. They mentioned kyber crystals in kind of a forced fashion. Where have we heard crystals before? Oh, okay. I'm assuming that's going to pay off later at some point. Mention what you're going to be using later. Something I did notice was interesting was when Cassian Andor shot his friend, buddy, informant, whatever he is there, he did actually give some acting with his face that seemed to indicate that he knew the importance and the weight of his actions that he just took, and that it wasn't business as usual and callous completely, that he was still inside of it, shocked at what he had to do, I suppose he felt like. And I did appreciate that subtle bit of acting there, because it does give us a little bit more information about his character, who yet again we have just met and know nothing about, but at least we know a little bit about him. Again, I'm not sure what to make about the pilot scene. He seems earnest, and you would think they would be eager, yet they really appear, the Saw's rebels appear indifferent to him. They don't even actually directly talk to him. And they don't seem to be moving to quick action to act on what may be potential information. And this comes up again with this pilot. I kind of felt bad for this actor. We'll get to that later on. They show a crumbled statue of what appears to be a Jedi. It looks kind of cool, but again, what does this show? What does this mean? There's no context. There's no nothing, so I don't know, anything about that. I mean, you could delete it, I think, and it wouldn't change anything. So let's see. What else have I got? She's in the, I guess, prison transport vehicle, and she's kind of staring around like she's expecting something to happen. It's just it was just so odd that her looking around like that, because obviously she wouldn't have any note of that. The one good thing I will say out of this is that the robot's line when he stops Jin from running away, it's really good. Okay, got a laugh out of me. Really good delivery, really good line there. Again, I don't understand though why they were, I guess, so surprised with her actions. Didn't they know her record, what kind of person they were dealing with? Because they do say that later on. You know, if you're going to break someone out of jail, I assume you know pretty good stuff about them because you need them pretty bad. Something else that comes up in this scene is Cassian Andor has a accent that I believe his natural accent. And I thought that originally that this wouldn't work in a Star Wars movie, bringing in somebody with a different accent, you know, an Earth, so to speak, a real accent, and then popping him in there, besides the British, of course, for the Imperials. But it does work. I actually like his accent. It seems to work in the movie, and it kind of baffles me. Maybe it's the actor that's pulling it off, but no, accent, fine with. No problem with that. Lady playing Mon Mothma seems to be a good job. She also gives some subtle utter performance when she's stating with the problems with Saw. You can see that she looks at a couple people around the room, looks down. It strikes me that she took on some of those problems herself. That some of that happened. It's not just Saw. You know, it really was something else going on there. Very subtle amount of acting again. And I guess I got to reach for straws here because I need to know more about these people and what's going on. You know. So I'm really trying to pay attention and figure things out. Okay, Cassian and Jin have a fight over her carrying the blaster. I don't see what the point of this is. Did he just decide to trust her? Taking it on faith? He doesn't really seem like the faith type, right? Seems pretty dealing in the concrete, cold-blooded concrete, as you were. And we do have a bad line here from the robot where he says high, very high. That's just a poor line, and it looks even more poor given the prior writing for the robot, which hasn't been a whole lot, but was pretty good. I think here again we cut back to the pilot. Again, everyone seems... The problem is the pilot is doing a really good job, the guy playing the pilot. He seems really freaked out. But everyone around him is just like standing around on a coffee break. That is literally what they're doing. They're just not giving anything. And those two do not work. Because you literally have a guy acting his ass off here. And then you have everyone else just, 5 minutes. Yeah, 5 minutes and we can go get our coffees. Yeah, okay. That's why I feel bad for the pilot. Because in that scene in particular, it really stood out that he's really acting his heart out with what little he has been given to do, and he's trying to convey, I guess, so much in such a short amount of time that he's not getting anything from anybody else around him, and that's unfortunate. Okay, I guess the dramatic music timer hit again because they give us dramatic music when Saw is breathing from a breathing mask. I don't understand why. I do not understand why. Do we think that he's so crazy that he's going to just like straight up strangle the pilot? I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense, this dramatic music. Of course, he says the line, bore gullet. It's meaningless, doesn't mean anything to us. They really like this no context for stuff. I think that you might be able to get that away with that if you have a character that you know and recognize, that you know kind of how they are, and maybe they say something ambiguous, but you can't do that the entire movie with everything and everyone. It just is dumb. Okay, here we get the CG Tarkus, which is pretty good, the CG. I mean, he does look a little cartoony, but it's pretty good. But I think the real problem isn't the CG. I think the problem is whoever did the acting, so to speak, whether it was a CG artist or a motion capture artist or whoever. They play him like a mustache twirling villain, which is not the way he was played by Peter Cushing, if that's the actor's name, if I remember rightly. And So I don't think it's a matter that the CG is bad. I think it's that the acting is kind of poor and pedestrian. I mean, you're looking at Tarkin there. There's no need to overact him being a bad guy. It comes across pretty clear. I don't get the flashbacks with Galen and Jin. Was he a good dad? Were they close? It's just too little too fast to care about it. And they really seem more like distractions. I mean, if they really wanted us to know that they had this special relationship, I would rather them have spent one scene with them as a child, establishing their close and special relationship, rather than having all this little crap thrown in there. Just like, ooh, feel. See, they're close. Let's go. Move on to the next thing. Just one really good scene, and you could nail it. But this little stuff peppered in here and there is, I don't like it. Don't care for it. Not a fan of that. Also doesn't make, again, this is a minor point, but it doesn't make sense to finger the crystal she got from her mom when she was reminiscing about her dad. So the only reason I can figure that she did that is they don't want us to forget about the crystals, because the crystals do come up again, and perhaps later on, we'll talk about that later. The banter. It's kind of awkward when they're deciding who's going into the city, and K2 presents a really good point, and Cassian sides with Jin. Why? He doesn't really say. Like, that's why it's awkward. It's not necessarily bad. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It's almost like we missed part of the banter in there. And so which I guess we could have. They could have cut that out for time or something like that. But it just doesn't really make any sense, that banter between all three of them there, which is really between Jin and Andor, which Andor really isn't a part of it. So it's really between Jin and K2. It doesn't really make much sense. Okay, so here again, why do we have dramatic music and a shot about the Star Destroyer? That we already saw the Star Destroyer above the city. Again, is this the timer thing? Dramatic music time now to wake up the people that have fallen asleep? I mean, to be perfectly honest, I found this movie tiring to watch because you're trying to make sense of it and you're having to work overtime. It's kind of like trying to make sense of, a movie, but there seems to be whole chunks missing out of it. So you're trying to put together the pieces. And I guess that's what I felt was going on with me with watching this. Let's see. The dialogue. I guess the market dialogue, when they're talking Jin and then talking with the... And I kind of just marked it all together as the market dialogue. It just seemed odd. Maybe it's because I didn't get an atmosphere from the town. It really seemed like they were just on a soundstage with a couple of people. And I just couldn't, it seemed a little odd, awkward, not flowing. Almost like we're taking a little break here for no reason because, reason, I guess. I really don't know. And I'm not really sure what that market dialogue adds beyond just introducing the blind guy character in the other one. Which they could have just had him walk by and then notice her or something like that. Then we have this market fight. And I was going to do a breakdown, but I was kind of getting a little bit tired at this point of writing so much. And there was just so much that was just a mess about that fight. I wouldn't call that a good action scene by any means, because it wasn't real clear on what was going on and where and all that sort of thing. I think at one point Jen even leaves cover, runs in front of a stormtrooper, and then after she's run past the stormtrooper, shoots him. But why didn't he shoot her when she ran out? It just doesn't. And of course, we have to play into the trope that the stormtroopers still can't hit crap, which was okay previously. But if you're trying to set a more serious tone, it kind of undercuts the movie when stormtroopers are, worse than the Roger droids, because they kind of are, at least so far in this one. All right. I'm going to skip that. Not worth mentioning it now. Okay, so now we have a blind man fight, which actually was kind of cool. From the trailers, it looked stupid and retarded. And this would have been a really good fight, I think, except for the fact that his stick kept bouncing off the armor. And you could actually see the stick vibrate. I mean, that he could have whacked those guys with that stick and it wouldn't hurt them. I mean, that's what it was, unfortunately. And they should have given him something a lot more meaty to use, I think, that he could have actually crashed right through them. And hell, I would have rather him just been hand to hand, to be perfectly honest, at that point. But that's the only thing that undercut the scene of that action, because it was really good, but he's got this stupid little stick that bounces off the armor. And I know that's overplayed, the blind guy that I guess can see, and that did get really old later on already in the movie. So, but as for now, I mean, at least it was a nice action, especially contrasted with the market scene, which was just a mess. This at least was watchable, and you could see what was going on, and it looked kind of cool, except for the stupid stick that bounced off. Again, they try to say a joke here. The blind guy says, "I'm blind," when they're putting, like hoods on him. But he just like kicked 10 stormtroopers' asses, which I guess we've already established aren't high on the list. But still, he did do 10. So that blind stuff is just crap. Again, is that supposed to be a joke? Because we just saw what he did. And presumably they saw it too. Saw's men. So where's the joke? Because you really aren't that blind. Okay, so here we have some character stuff with Jin and the other characters. I think we are supposed to feel a deep sense of loss for Jin, and some really supposed to feel for all the characters. Cassian for his ruthlessness, the blind guy because he believes in a dead religion, the pilot because everyone hates him, doesn't believe him. But we don't know anyone. It is as if the makers of this film just expected us to automatically glom onto these people and be like, I feel for you. I just feel for you. Maybe even just because of one line or something, like Cassian being in a prison of his own or something. That's like, no, okay, no. I don't understand their mindset that we're supposed to now feel deeply for these characters at this point. These people that we don't know and we have no context for. I mean, even when they talked to Jin about her criminal charges earlier in the film, they didn't give any context to those. Were they in support of the rebels? Was she helping poor people? Was she helping the people the Empire was oppressing? Or was she just a common criminal out for her own good? And she was rightly in jail for her crimes. Again, there's no context given. And they really should have, given something for that. I mean, that's kind of important. Is this really a kind of a bad person that we're just trying to use for good ends? Or is this a person that was already kind of good, but on this, obviously they're in the Rebel Alliance, so they're already shady as well. So, Jin's going to be kind of in the same boat they are. Again, we don't know. And that's why, do they just expect us to, it's almost as if the makers of the film are screaming in our face to feel for these people, these scenes, particularly Jin, like when she's finding out about her dad, the hologram. And they just expect us to like well up with tears and start crying or something. And that's crazy. That's just absolutely insanity. We see Jin cracking up when her dad's speaking in the hologram. I thought the actor, I think it's Mad Mickles, I'm not real sure, but he actor playing Galen, did a really good job. Thought it was, it was good dialogue. Felt really earnest and heartfelt with his voice without being overly like, feel for me, Very touching in that way. But the problem is her contrast. And I really wonder if this was a problem, like, that she was acting to nothing because it's a hologram. And I don't know, maybe Mad Mickles was actually there. I think that would have probably improved the scene if she could have actually had another, him there, her dad Galen, to act off of, even if he wasn't in the actual scene. That way, because it did feel kind of like, okay, this is the point where you well up, this is the point where you crack, this is the point now where you collapse. It kind of felt very rote and kind of paint by numbers and did not feel necessarily authentic. I almost feel in some ways like a robot simulating human feelings wrote like a large part of this, because that's not how people operate. People don't automatically identify with a character and feel great sympathy for them. You can always use the trope, which I think now is mainly immune to most people, of you show somebody abusing a child or a woman egregiously, and then you show someone else opposed to that person. Well, the other person then must be a good guy, right? Because this person is such a terrible, terrible, terrible person. This guy must, so you glom onto them. But I mean, that's not really here and now in the movie. I just want to know, can the blind guy see or not? Because at this point in the movie, it's getting really stupid. Please decide and tell me. Because it appears he can see. And even if his eyes do not function, yet he still sees, then he's not a blind guy. And that's just, we need to figure that out. Because it's just annoying. Again, we have another inconsistency here when they're escaping from the Death Star, destroying the city/planet. Cassian yells, "Get us out of here," and punch it. But only then he waits. K2 waits for him to get up in the pilot seat, and then he drives them off themselves. Why didn't K2 fly him out already? And the ship already be escaping when he jumps in the pilot seat. It's a small thing, but I mean, that is a high tension, supposed to be moment. You know, they're about to die, and K2's literally just waiting for Cassian to get up there after he just told him to get us out of here and punch it. Doesn't make any sense again. It would have been better just to delete that dialogue from the audio track and continue on. Who cares if Saul dies? We don't know him. He's had a whole 5 minutes of screen time on, and half that time he was, I guess, playing crazy. And the other half, we didn't see too much from him. He went and picked up Jin, that's all we know. Again, it's like a robot wrote this. Feel for this person that's about to die. Well, you also gave us conflicting information earlier that he was apparently going crazy and he was extremist compared to the rebels, which again, we don't know what that means. Does that mean that he wanted to eat the Imperials? Does that mean he wanted to passively resist them openly, which is suicide, but that would be more extreme than the rebels hiding their resistance? Again, there is no context to any of this, so I have no idea what's going on. He does appear crazy, though, so it doesn't really appear like a great loss. It would have been much more pertinent to I think the scene if he actually would have proved of value but was unable or had to sacrifice himself so that the others could escape. That would be something to lament. Lamenting a crazy person that apparently is no longer of any use to anyone and them passing, while it may be sad from a human point of view, does not actually, it's not a great loss. All right, let's see what we've got here. Okay, so here's the whole problem. So we know that Cassian is supposed to kill Galen, but that is a complete moot point now. The Star Destroyer has been constructed. It is finished. Killing Galen will not affect that. Now, we know that Cassian didn't see the holo, though, about Galen being remorseful. So maybe they just want to kill him out of spite because of what he's done. And he doesn't know that Galen, at this point, was actually kind of trying to help, really. He really appears useless to chase Galen. There's no use to go after him from the rebellion's point of view. But then in the very next scene, Jin tells Cassian about Galen's plan. And she has seen to prove herself so far, actually. She hasn't done anything that would not show that she's not being trustworthy. So you would think that he would believe her because he let her carry the blaster and she has only shown her actions since then to be trustworthy. And she's telling him about this flaw that her dad put in the Death Star, which again, she doesn't know about the kill order, so she doesn't have any reason necessarily to lie about this. I'm not sure what they're arguing about there, really. I mean, I understand that Cassian would probably feel a bit torn in between following his orders and, updating for this new information, but I don't know what they're arguing about. Yes, Kitty, I see you. Okay, so at this point I pause the movie, and Netflix tells me I have watched around 57 minutes, and I still have an hour and 17 minutes to go, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't watch this anymore. I mean, I hope that, the things that I've listed, that you see what I'm trying to get an idea of what is going on in this film. And I have watched 57 minutes of it, and I don't feel like I know anyone, care about anyone. And for me, I'm the sort of person, I don't have to finish something if I start it. If I start a movie and I'm not liking it, I just turn it off. No sweat. So I think I'm going to have to leave Rogue One there, and that's why I can't do a recap of the movie, because I didn't watch the whole movie. And I don't know if I will ever go back and watch it. Fortunately, Netflix will save it for me, so it'll be sitting there, waiting right there, 57 minutes for me, and anytime I want to go pick it back up, I can. But it's an hour and 17 minutes to, like, what are they going to do for this next part? I mean, they've already just been throwing us around, it's just like, I don't like being tossed around, and I guess feeling like they're not even really trying to manipulate your feelings, because they're just telling you to feel this way. And I don't see any reason to finish it really at this point. But I did watch it, and it got to me, all these little things so irritatingly bad that I was writing them down, and I decided I would just do a little video about it and see what other people thought about it. Did these things irritate you? Do you have explanations for some of these things? Especially like the dramatic music coming up for no reason all the time. Those sorts of things. Any explanations that anyone can provide below, please list. I'll try to respond back to them. If you have good points, similar points, or different points about it, I would also be interested in hearing those. So thank you for your time, and you have a good day. Bye.